at my company, which is a large company. I mean, when I say I'm a large company, I am saying it, unapologetically. We're a large company. Large because, of course, we have midstream, upstream, and downstream. And the CBN, I won't say the CBN per se for this particular one. There was this, export fund, in which a kind of COVID fund that they provided for exporters, to help cushion the whole logistics and all that value chain issues. So that helped. So it was a kind of intervention fund to support, and the intervention funds that CBN gave out. You recall I said that they came down with the rates. The rates were 9%. I think they brought down the rates to about 5%. I mean, with 5%, you are still able to do a lot. The only problem we had during the COVID period, let's not forget, COVID is still with us, is that, people had problems of logistics, of moving things around. And that was a major problem. But as soon as we had support from government, particularly the Presidential Task Force, which to a large extent I think did a yeoman's job, but somewhere along the line too, allowed some cracks to come in. They were the ones that gave fillip to a lot of states that were producing, because at some point in time during COVID, we had a lot of inventory in the villages that the products were just rotting away. So I think kudos must be given to Central Bank of Nigeria for the intervention funds they provided so far. You see, possibilities will abound. Challenges will be there. But, as one who is keen to always tell people that, do not die in their war. Leave the politicians to do their bit. Do your bit in the area of agriculture. Because there will be little activity in terms of business, government. Because everybody is jostling, to get elected, as it were, or to get nominated, or to be at the primary. So a lot of sectors will be struggling with funding. But I mean, I'm not sure whether you saw the breakdown of the budget by the Honorable Minister of Finance in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 days, where she talked about the fact that non-oil exports grew, by a reasonable quantum. And that is quite impressive. In spite of all this, we still grew non-oil exports. But what we need to do is we need to leave this oil matter. This oil has become an albatross. I once went to Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe in 1980 was what you would call a food basket. But Zimbabwe, as we speak now, is a basket case, unfortunately. And we have such stories, in different parts of Africa. But one thing I want to say is that Africa must do enough trade amongst themselves. We don't do enough trade amongst ourselves. We'd rather go and get goods and services from the West, rather than do enough business amongst ourselves. We all have comparative advantage in different crops and different areas, which I think we should try and work on and harness. Until we do that, I think it will be akin to winking at a lady in the dark. She won't see you. See, the problem with maize is that maize is a crop that is used for so many things. It's used for animal feed. It's used for feedstock. Okay, for so many things. It is consumed as a meal on its own. Okay, it is consumed as a bit of a recreational crop. So maize is. We're one of the largest producers of maize, but the quantum we produce is not enough for us. And again, during the farming season, I think it was a problem with the farmers who complained about fertilizer, who complained about rainfall and all kinds of things. But the major producers of animal feed and livestock and the rest needed a bridging period of maize to come in. Otherwise, they were going to lose. You have to understand that there's a value chain in all of this. There's a value chain in all of this. No one works in isolation. So that was when the Central Bank gave, I think, 4 companies the license to bring in a certain quantum of maize. Otherwise, if that had not happened by the CBN, we would have had crisis. Look at even poultry. Poultry, between 4 and 6 million birds get smuggled into the country every year. That again shows you that smuggling is a major problem in Nigeria. So that smuggling, we need to work on smuggling. Because smuggling is an anathema to development in the agricultural sector. Well, for us, don't forget that our animal feed and poultry plant, $100 million one we commissioned in Kaduna was in 2017. It was big. It had the capacity to take care of the entire northern market and, if possible, export. Where we had the aquaculture and feed one in Ilorin to take care of the southern market. But don't forget that Ilorin is a gateway to the south as well as the north. So that's what we did then. And so far, so good. But we're looking at doing other things as well in terms of making sure that we support farmers, okay, for soya particularly, okay, and maize. So, I mean, before I came on air, I was discussing with a few friends of mine who were telling me that Nigeria, look at, we consume 4 million tons of wheat annually, between 4 and 5 million tons of wheat annually. Guess how many tons we produce? 50,000. Wheat is a majorly temperate crop. But you know what? You can still get varieties by doing a lot of research. But our problem is that what are our research institutes doing? Our research institutes have turned into centers of what I would call, all they do is, under the guise of capacity building, they want to go on tours, abroad to go and, in quotes, learn best practices. When even the practices that the research they have in their incubators have not seen the light of day. The bulk of their budgets is spent on recurrent expenditure. So all they do is just pay salaries of Professor X or Professor Y. So they are mere, you recall that there was a time they said hospitals have become mere consulting centers. That's what these research centers have turned into, unfortunately. But you still have the likes of the NIHOS, the foreign one, which is an IITA, which still come up with a few things here and there. The Raw Materials Research and Development Council. So I think government should do something with that, particularly funding a lot of these research institutes, because you know what, these research institutes are the ones that will come up with, better variants, better seed multiplication units and all that in areas of seeds. Because our problem basically is seeds. The seeds will give you, good seeds will give you good yields. And even seeds that we're talking about, you have hybrids, okay? Look at tomato, for example. People forget the fact that the tomato you use for paste is different from the table tomato that we use, table tomato. Olam has a facility in Fresno, in California. We're talking about 40 tons per hectare. In Nigeria, you are struggling with 5 or 10 tons per hectare. Look at the disparity. Okay, so we can go on and on. You see, every country has what you call a strategic reserve, particularly what you call strategic grain reserve, that sometimes lasts between 3, 6, and 9 months. Nigeria's strategic reserve will not last more than 1 month. A lot of the silos were concessioned, but were concessioned to the wrong people who didn't have a clue. So imagine silos being concessioned, and the likes of Olam, the likes of flour mills, and the likes don't have a hand in those silos. Who would help with the silos in terms of putting strategic grains in them, if not the likes of us, who have the capacity and the wherewithal to do it? So, which is why I say that to a large extent we do a lot of things with political coloration rather than economic consideration. So political coloration, economic consideration, beclouds economic consideration. So you talk about logistics. Everything in life is based on logistics. Us talking here now is based on logistics. It took me logistics to get here. Making a phone call is based on logistics. Traveling is based on logistics. Everything is based on logistics. I'm sure you probably be laughing and saying there was this particular guy in Big Brother who was, I think they said, based on logistics, and everybody was laughing. But he grew on. Everything was based on logistics. That's the truth, So our logistics is poor. But I must commend the federal government for their train service. But you see, the train service, the problem with the train service is when it takes goods from one point to another, when it's returning empty. So that's the problem. So it's a one-way street rather than a two-way street. So that's one thing we'll need to work on. And commuting from one end of the country to another end of the country is something I think we need to work on as well. Look at Adamawa. Adamawa has one of the, Taraba particularly, has the highest peak in Nigeria. So that's a place that ordinarily should be growing high-quality coffee, tea, and the likes. Well, you know what? I don't understand sometimes the subnationals. But everybody seems to accuse the center of not doing X or not doing Y. But nobody has
gone to ask the subnationals and the local governments what they are doing with the monies they receive. Unfortunately, everything is blamed. Everything is put at the doorstep. The blame is put at the doorstep of the center. But what about the subnationals?